Cool. So yeah, I'm Gabrielle. We're also joined with Kim from Zapier and Liz from ProsperWorks. She's a sales engineer here. And in today's session, we're going to go over a couple user stories for inspiration on how you can start with ProsperWorks and Zapier. We're also going to do a quick demo of how to set up a ProsperWorks Zap. And then we're going to explain how our team here at ProsperWorks uses Zapier. And then we're also going to have 15 minutes for questions and answers. So if you have any questions throughout the webinar, please submit them in the questions pane of your GoToWebinar control panel, and they'll be addressed during the questions and answers session. And just so you know, a recorded version of today's webinar will also be available after the broadcast. So you may have noticed we gave a little poll at the beginning just to see, just get a feel for who's using ProsperWorks, who's using Zapier, who's using both, and who's using neither. It looks like we have 32% of the attendees here using just ProsperWorks, 5% just using Zapier, 59% using both. So that's pretty cool.
Awesome.
I'm going to share this with you guys. And yeah, so if we want to just quickly go over what ProsperWorks is for those who aren't familiar, we are the only CRM that teams actually love to use. We automate tasks and eliminate manual data entry, so we streamline sales processes to make them repeatable and allow you to get visibility into analytics to be used for both yourself and the rest of your team. We're built for and recommended and used by Google.
Connection issues, but I will jump into what is Zapier. Zapier, for people who haven't used it, is a workflow automation tool. And just to clear up a common question straight off the bat, it's pronounced Zapier, as in Zapier makes you happier. Zapier connects apps together and makes it possible for the apps you use during your workday to talk to each other. So in my workday, I use more apps than I can count. I use Gmail for my email, Slack for team communication, Typeform for data collection, Airtable to organize all of that data. The list goes on. I probably can't list them all in the time we have today. I can't get my work done without these tools, but wouldn't it be great if these tools could talk to each other so that I didn't have to manually copy and paste bits of information from one of my apps to another? Zapier solves that problem by letting you automate the tedious manual transfer of data and enabling you to build workflows that otherwise wouldn't be possible. And we call those workflows Zaps. So I can set up an automation or a Zap that watches for new emails from my boss or from a client and then get those emails sent to me in Slack automatically. And that way I don't have to flip back and forth between all of my apps. I can just go through my workday in a much more streamlined way. So the result is greater productivity. And at Zapier, we like to say that there are some jobs that humans do well and some jobs that computers do well. We help the computers do as much work as possible so that you're free to concentrate on the more creative and strategic parts of your job. So what kind of apps do we connect with? Truly, if you're using the app at work, it's likely that we already connect with that app. We have over 800 apps on our platform today, including apps like Google Sheets, Typeform, Slack, Gmail. And then to get started, we have a free plan, and it scales based on usage. You can get started with 5 automations for free. And best of all, selfishly for me, because I'm a marketer and not a coder, but probably for you too, there's no coding required to set up these automations. As a marketer, I hate having to lean on developer resources, so anything I can do myself is so helpful for me to get my work done. The interface for building an automation is really welcoming and easy to use, no matter what your job, if you're a marketer, a designer, professional of any kind, really, and of course, it's friendly for developers too. So if you're already using Zapier, I'd love to hear what kind of Zaps you guys have set up. So if you can go ahead and drop those in the chat and share with us, I'd love to hear it. For me, one of my favorite Zaps is between Slack and the app I use for my to-do list, which is Todoist. Every time I star a message in Slack, that message is automatically added to Todoist, so I know that I have to follow up and do it later. Gabby and Liz, do you guys have any favorite Zaps?
Yeah, I think the ProsperWorks and Slack Zap is pretty cool. So whenever someone from our team closes the deal, you get notified about it. And I think we're going to talk about that in a little bit. Cool.
Yeah, that's a super popular connection. I heard about that one a lot. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Cool. So I'm going to get started by sharing 2 ways to use ProsperWorks in Zapier. And I don't know if you guys know about how this webinar came about, but I recently interviewed 5 teams that use ProsperWorks and Zapier together. And they shared stories about the Zaps that they use to save time and run their businesses. And then I wrote a blog about them, and Gabby wrote a blog on ProsperWorks site too, so you guys can check out these stories in more detail over there. But I talked to like really varied businesses that speak to the accessibility of Zapier as a platform. I talked to a t-shirt company, a company that makes interactive maps, media and PR agencies, all of these people who are building Zaps to get more done in their day. So I wanted to share 2 of those with you really quickly. The first one is from this company called Prevot, which is based in Boston, and they help companies migrate to Amazon Web Services. And they connect Zapier to ProsperWorks to send proposals faster. So I want to show you their website. Over here, this is Prevot's homepage. And on their homepage, they have a call to action that you can get a full proposal with pricing in less than an hour without talking to anyone from sales. How do they deliver on such a magnificent promise, you ask? Well, they automate it with a Zap. So when you say get started, you're taken to a form on their website, and the back end of this is actually a Gravity form, which is one of the form tools that Zapier integrates with. So someone visiting their site, fills out their name, their company, their message, their question, and then that kicks off a Zap, which I can show you which one they use. When the lead is captured from Gravity form, it adds that lead to ProsperWorks automatically, and then it posts a message to Slack. There's that very popular integration, just to alert the team that a lead has been captured. And then from there, when they have a new lead in ProsperWorks, they use this proposal generating software called Proposify. And Proposify can connect to your CRM and then automatically create a proposal based on the actions you take in your CRM. So by connecting that to ProsperWorks, they can generate a proposal automatically and send out that proposal in an email to their new clients. So from there, they're able to deliver on this, delivering a proposal in under an hour without having to talk to anybody. And really, it required no human intervention whatsoever. So they go from capturing someone through a form to delivering a proposal just through automation, which is pretty spectacular. That was one of my favorite stories that we collected in these blog posts too. I love hearing what people are up to.
Speaking of that, I want to kind of go over what people have been sending in as their favorite Zaps.
Let's hear them.
So it says he likes ProsperWorks to and from QuickBooks Online. Chris is using Facebook leads to ProsperWorks and Facebook leads to the MailChimp list. Sean is also using FormStack to ProsperWorks and QBO contact creation. Let's see. Neil is using a Zap connecting Google Calendar and Trello. James says his favorite Zap sends him an SMS reminder to take out the trash on trash night.
That's amazing. Zaps for everyday life. That's a real thing.
Yeah. Real life Zaps.
I
That'd be a good blog post.
Yes.
And then Karen said, I like our Zaps where we get GitHub issues and comments into Slack, which makes it easy to catch up on the work that the team did. Let's see. And then Don, he says he collects leads on the WordPress site with a form, uses Zapier to send the data to the form, from the form to MailChimp, Google Contacts, and ProsperWorks.
Yeah, that's so awesome. Because from that, so many stages of the life cycle of a customer, right? You have automation from collecting a new lead, setting them up in your as a vendor in your accounting. What else was there? Communicating with the team, like really,
Yeah, definitely.
all of these little processes, just a touch of automation makes your day so much easier. That's so cool that you guys are doing all of that. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for sharing, guys.
And if you could remind my husband to take out the trash, I'd really appreciate that. Danger Zap.
There's Zap.
There's a Zap for everything.
Zap for trash.
Awesome. So the second story that I wanted to share was one about communication, about celebrating wins as a team, and it's something that you talked about briefly at the beginning, Gabby. That this is that is one of your favorites too. You know, like many organizations, this company I talked to, Ubi Labs, which is a German company that makes interactive maps using Google Maps API. They have quarterly sales targets, and towards the end of a quarter, it can get really stressful trying to push some deals across the finish line and close those deals so they count towards your quota. So Ubi Labs has a Zap for when an opportunity switches to a status of 1. Then Zapier searches Giphy for a certain keyword, and you can input any keyword when you're building this Zap. Ubi Labs searches for FTW, which is for the win, if you didn't know. And then when it finds a GIF that matches that keyword, it posts the GIF to a Slack channel, and then everyone celebrates with a GIF party. So, you know, basically a GIF party in Slack is the modern day equivalent of cake in the break room. So it's cool to celebrate a job well done and, you know, get recognition for closing a deal, and it doesn't take any extra effort on your part or your manager's part to recognize somebody's hard work, which is pretty cool. It's a simple automation, but like I said, a really common one among the teams that we talk to. Oh, and I have a GIF too. That was a GIF that they actually shared. It's random what Giphy sends back, but they said a particular sales team member really loves Louis C.K. and he had a really hard time closing this particular sale. And Giphy did the search for the random GIF, and the Giphy gods smiled on him and delivered this perfect Louis C.K. GIF. So that was perfect. So that is everything that I wanted to share. Now I'm going to throw it to the ProsperWorks team to share how they use Zapier.
Yeah, perfect. So really, you know, I did a survey within our internal team here, and we really use Zapier in a lot of different ways, in a lot of different departments. So like mentioned before, you know, we use web forms a lot. We use Slack a lot in terms of, hey, when we have leads come in, we want to be notified of, you know, when something is put in our name, or, you know, when people send particular web forms out. But also we've used it for things like Sheets integrations. We've used it for things like Intercom, for things like Zendesk. But the biggest reason why we do that is, you know, we have the engineering resources and the development resources to be able to build any integration that we need in-house, but we choose to use Zapier for a lot of them just, you know, for a couple different reasons. One, you know, it takes time to have our engineering resources build that ourselves. It takes money to do that they could be, you know, working on our application. And then not only that, but because Zapier is so easy to use and it doesn't require any of that coding, it allows us to have greater control. So whether it's our sales managers, whether it's marketing, you know, whoever wherever it's, you know, our CS team, they're able to control what zaps they want to have fire and when, and be able to control that whenever they need it to change. And that's not something that we would be able to do if we were to build it from scratch. So we use zaps quite heavily because, you know, we just want to have that control as an organization and be able to, you know, change any integrations that we need as soon as we need to.
Yeah, that's really great to hear, Liz. And I mean, something I've learned just working at Zapier is there are so many more apps that I never knew about. I mean, even just having 800 apps on a platform, that sounds like a gigantic amount to me. And there's still more to be done, and new apps that are being created all the time. So if you use a very niche app that's specific to your workflow, we probably support it where other platforms don't. So we can not only make things easier for you by automating the tedious bits, but you can make workflows that just otherwise wouldn't be possible by stringing these apps that you use during your day together.
Yeah. We have a couple questions coming in regards to just Zap activity. And Karen was wondering, it seems that I have to do a Zap for each activity from ProsperWorks. What billing plan with Zapier would you recommend?
What was the first part of the question, Gabby?
Karen says she seems that I have to do a Zap for each activity from ProsperWorks. So what billing plan with Zapier would you recommend?
From each activity in ProsperWorks. Well, with Zapier, you can get started with 5 Zaps. Let me show you our pricing page very quickly. So you can have 5 Zaps on at a time for free, which is here, and that can run 100 tasks a month. So a task is anytime you're moving a piece of data from one place to another place. If you need to have more than 5 Zaps on at a time, then I would probably recommend the basic plan just to get started. For a while, I ran just as a solopreneur with the free plan, but as soon as I started working at Zapier and realizing more of the power that can be done, having 20 Zaps at a time and less than $20 a month, it pays for itself just in man hours, people hours, very quickly. So I would probably recommend either starting with a free plan just to get your feet wet, or if you know you're going to be using it a lot, 1,000 tasks a month and 20 Zaps at a time is a good place to start too.
Cool. So if we're ready to move into questions and answers, we've got a ton that have just come in.
Okay, let's hear them.
Cool. So Amy is wondering, is there a Zap to create new contacts from LinkedIn to ProsperWorks?
LinkedIn to ProsperWorks. Okay, let me show you guys. On Zapier, each app has a page called their Zapbook page. So if I look at LinkedIn, because you're going to be kicking off this Zap with LinkedIn, so your trigger would be coming from LinkedIn. At the bottom of each Zapbook page is a list of the triggers and actions available for each particular app. And it looks like right now we don't have any triggers available for LinkedIn, so you can't actually kick off a Zap from LinkedIn and send that data to anywhere. You can, since LinkedIn has actions, you can start the Zap in a different app and send information to LinkedIn. So it looks like what you're looking to do wouldn't yet be possible, but if you send me your details after, we always have feature requests for apps, so I'll log that request under LinkedIn, and then you'll get an email when that's available.
Cool. Michael's wondering, what if I want to create a Zap that does not have an existing action? Can I create the action?
Can you create action? You could no, I don't think you could. The best way to get an action created is to contact the app directly and tell them that you'd like to see that on Zapier, or write into us at contact@zapier.com and we'll log that feature request for you. We're always building new features into the apps, and then we announce those on our updates blog, which you can subscribe to over on the blog under Zapier Updates. So it's different than our normal blog. It's specifically about updates that we make to each app, and they're updates that we release every day, and every Wednesday we send out an email with all of those updates. So if you subscribed here, then you would get that information delivered directly to you.
This is from Arlene. It's kind of more a generic terminology question. She's just wondering, how do you define a API token?
Oh, I don't know if I'm the best person to answer that. Liz, as an engineer.
I can take that one if you want. Right. So an API token, basically the purpose of this is so that, for instance, you don't have somebody going into a ProsperWorks account or some other and just creating a Zap that's going to run without you having authorization. So basically the token allows it to have authorization to flow data in and out at the basic level.
That makes sense to me. That's a good explanation. Thanks. I wouldn't have known how to describe that.
What else? Is there a way to track emails when sending from Zapier in the process that you demonstrated earlier, Kim?
Track emails. What do you think?
We do offer email tracking through ProsperWorks. So.
Oh, I see. So maybe what they're wondering is, will those emails sent through Zapier be tracked in ProsperWorks?
Yes.
Yeah, so because we scrape our emails at the server level through Gmail, everything will be brought into ProsperWorks and you'll be able to track it through there. So that's good. That's one of the benefits because not every solution would be able to do that.
Yeah, email tracking is is a really great feature that you guys have too. I use it.
Daniel's wondering, would it be possible for an integration between ProsperWorks and SAP Business One through Zapier?
What's the app?
SAP Business One?
Oh, SAP Business One.
Yeah.
I'm sure it is. I'm actually not familiar with SAP Business One, but I assume they're not all already available, or you may be asking that question.
Maybe I'll help jump in on this one too. I mean, we've gotten a lot of questions on very specific Zaps, which is great. I love to see people, thinking about how they can work with it for their team. I think the main thing here is one of the great things that I like about Zapier, and whenever I come across even applications that I haven't heard of before, I just go into the ProsperWorks Zap book and I search for whatever application I want to connect to. And many times it's right there, and then when I click on that, I can see exactly what type of actions, what type of triggers I can do between the two applications. And even within the free app, you can just kind of, what I do all the time is I just play around with it. I don't necessarily have to completely create the Zap to see what it can do. So really just exploring what those two applications can do and clicking on things and seeing what can be dynamic, how you can pass information back and forth. I find that really powerful. So I would say to anybody who is wondering how they can particularly pass information back and forth from ProsperWorks and potentially another application or between two other applications, I would say just come in here to the Zap book, if you want to scroll down so that you can see all of the different applications, and really you just search for those, and then you'll be able to see what you can do between the two apps.
Yeah, and on this Zapbook page, these recommended Zaps are sorted by popularity, so that's really helpful to know if you're looking for what's possible, maybe getting inspiration from what other people are doing. But like I said before, this isn't a complete list. There's 40 here, but there are just endless opportunities. So really similar to Liz, something I do is just load two Zapbook pages next to each other, so ProsperWorks and, let's say, Gmail, and then scroll down to those triggers, searches, and actions on each of the pages and compare what I can do. So like if I'm starting in ProsperWorks, what can I send to Gmail and vice versa? And then just start to, like you said, Liz, start to build it and play around and see where you get. The best way to get started with Zapier is just to get your feet wet and start playing around.
Um, so Jason's wondering, what type of confirmation can you see to ensure Zap actually executed as expected?
Oh, so not like what happened on my demo.
Yeah, exactly.
You will see at each step when you're building Zap, it'll ask you to test that Zap, to test that step, and it'll give you feedback about that step. So when this connects, which surely will be as soon as I leave this call, it'll say test successful, see the data, and it'll show you what it's pulled from ProsperWorks. So it'll show me my latest updated opportunity stage and show all of the information that that gives. So you'll see a lot of data that maybe you don't need, but it's all there for you. And then similar, when I get to the action step and test that step, it'll show me the output of it. And the whole Zap you can test live before actually turning it on. So once I have all the information in here, I would test the entire Zap, and it'll actually send me an email with the updated opportunity stage data, so I can make sure that it looks the way that I want it to, and vice versa. If ProsperWorks is your action app, you could send some test data into ProsperWorks and make sure it's formatted the way that you're expecting it to. So it is really easy. I know it doesn't seem that way since my test didn't work, but it does walk you through what you'll see and what you would expect to see in a live version.
And then after it's built, Jason's wondering, can you see a log of all the Zaps in Zapier or the activity of Zap and ProsperWorks through the contact activity feed?
You can, like when your Zap is live, I actually might have a ProsperWorks Zap. In your task history, it'll show you all of the data that you've recently run. I don't see anything ProsperWorks related recently, but it'll show me, like, I have this email to Slack recently successfully ran, and it'll show me the data that came out of Gmail and then all the data that went into Slack. So this is a good place to troubleshoot if anything is going wrong, or you can see these green check marks knowing that everything went right. So the task history in Zapier is really helpful.
Cool. Jody's wondering if there's a specific way to delay or schedule Zaps so that they run in a specific order.
In a specific order, I think the best way is because the Zaps are going to run based on the triggers and the actions that you set up. So anytime that there's new information received in your action app, it's going to run no matter what. What you can do is use, do I have my Zap? This one. There is an app called Delay by Zapier, which is one of our internal apps. Delay by Zapier. So you could delay an action until a certain date or time, or wait for a certain amount of time before completing the action, but it won't wait for a certain step to be completed. It's only based on time. So I think it's important to know that anytime that there's new data in your action app, that this app will run.
Brandon's wondering, are emails automatically related to a contact or opportunity or lead in ProsperWorks when they're sent from Zapier?
Yeah, maybe I can take that question too. So really with the emails, the way that we know it's connected to a particular, I'll say contact, is by its email address. So that's how we know. And if that email address is related to an opportunity, or if that email address is related to a lead, then we're going to push it into that particular entity record. So really it's all based off of that email, that key that we use. So that's the unique ID there.
So another question, ProsperWorks allows us to tag each lead. Is it possible to push the lead contact information into marketing automation software by the specific tag? That the lead will be pushed into the right group on your marketing automation software.
That I would check the Zapbook page for. Liz, do you know that offhand? Like how I would answer that question is I would be looking for a trigger that was new tag added to person.
Yeah, and so what I might do is this might actually be a multi-step zap. That's what I'm actually thinking of. So it might be a particular, okay, like new lead or new person or new opportunity. The biggest thing is you just want to add that filter step. That's from the Zapier side in the middle, so that you make sure that you only look for that particular tag item, and then you sync that data back and forth.
That's a really good tip, actually, because some integrations have the new tag added trigger, but you actually don't need it if you use the filter step. That's cool.
And so really with here, like the filtering, what I love about this is you can get really granular with your information. You can make this a very, very precise workflow with using ProsperWorks and Zapier to connect to whatever tools you want to.
Oh, tags is right here. So there you go.
There you go.
You can also do, exclusionary filtering. So instead of, it doesn't have to match that tag. It can be anything except that tag. So you can get very specific.
Cool. Brandon's wondering, for trade shows, does Zapier and ProsperWorks have a good suggested business card scanner?
Oh, interesting. The only one that I've seen recently is Full Contact.
Yeah, that's the one that I'm familiar with.
That's what we usually recommend when I get that question in the pre-sale side. I highly recommend it.
And they integrate with Zapier as well.
Perfect.
Yeah.
We're getting a lot of questions about whether or not this webinar will be recorded. So you can rewatch it later. And yes, we are recording it right now, and we will share it out on our blog shortly after the broadcast. I think it's also going to be emailed out to you guys as well.
Perfect. Cool.
Okay. Brandon has another question. If I use Zapier to generate an email or other task and something fails, will Zapier notify me of the fail?
It will, yeah. You'll get an email. It might be something like, there seems to be something wrong with your Zap, and then it'll give you some information about what it thinks is wrong with it and direct you to either ask us in customer support, and our support team is awesome and so fast, or it'll direct you to the task history that I showed you. And the task history, if the task is failed, it'll give you some information as to why, so you can investigate and fix it.
Peter's wondering if there's any examples of Zaps to handle lead scoring within ProsperWorks.
That's not something I'm very familiar with, lead scoring.
Yeah, I mean, with anything with lead scoring, it's about having the tool that you need to use. And so really I would consider that under marketing automation. And so as long as you have a way to get that lead scoring and get that information, you can pass the information into ProsperWorks. So it's really just a matter of figuring out what tool you want to use, and then putting that information through the Zap into ProsperWorks in the method that you want to have that done.
Great.
Going through some more questions. Can you verify an email in Zapier if the wrong email address was inputted?
You can't in Zapier, but there are tools that do that. there's an app that we just launched on Zapier. I'm blanking on the name, but you would find it in our updates blog that I showed you. They actually do email validation. So you could run your new leads through an email validation tool and then pass them to Zapier. But Zapier doesn't actually check that information. If the email address isn't correct, if it's like gmail.co or something like that, your Zap would fail, and that's when you would get the email that would alert you, and it would show in your task history what that email was, so you could track back to it.
And speaking of task history, Jody's wondering if there's a way to delete task errors from the task history.
Delete them? You don't really need to delete them. You can replay them from your task history. So if you see a failed task, there'll be a replay button, so that task will run again and re-trigger the Zap. So that's a good thing to do once you've fixed whatever the error was. But you don't really need to delete them from your task history. It's also, we probably don't want to in case we need to dive deeper into your data from our customer support team or something like that.
Chris is wondering if Zapier is going to have more functions with Google Analytics soon, like adding conversions.
Yeah, we are working on that partnership there. So anything that you want to see, any new triggers or actions, send them to me. Here's our contact information, and I'll log those as feature requests. Google Analytics is a newer one for us, but we're adding functionality there all the time, and the Zaps that we do have right now are pretty cool, so I'm excited to see that expand.
And then Josh is wondering if he can format the look of emails automatically sent by the Zapier integration.
You can, yeah. The email editor supports plain text and HTML, so you can format the emails in the editor.
And then Jason's wondering what digital signature vendor has the best integration with Zapier. They use Adobe Sign right now, but doesn't think that's available.
HelloSign, would that fall under that category? Yeah, that's a good one. Their integration is pretty robust, and a couple of the teams that I talked to when working on this blog post used HelloSign and seemed really happy with it. So I would check that one out. So cool to hear what kind of apps people are using.
Yeah, got a ton of feedback.
It's just so many, yeah.
There's so many apps.
There's so many apps.
Is there a way for Zapier to send all errors to Slack instead of email or via email? Or would we have to create a Zap that checks the email for Zapier error email and have it trigger Slack?
Yeah, you would have to set up a Zap to filter for those emails. So you could probably filter it based on the subject of the email or maybe the content of the email and then send it to Slack. The reason for that is the information that we get from you when you sign up is your email address. So that's our primary way to contact with you. But that's a great Zap. I use it all the time. Email to Slack.
And while we're talking about Slack, are there any Google Hangouts apps that are similar to the Slack one?
Oh, I've never used. Do we have Google Hangouts apps? Let's check. Might be Google Hangout. This person who asked the question might know more than me because I've actually never seen a Google Hangout Zap, so I'm not confident that we. I'm not sure that we integrate with Google Hangout. I'm hesitant to say no, in case we do, but I've never seen a Google Hangout Zap. But maybe it's just because I don't use Google Hangouts.
It'll be coming soon.
Yeah. Email me about why, like what you would want to use Google Hangouts for. I would imagine I get the same things that you use Slack for, but send me some more information about that, and I'm sorry that I don't know offhand.
So Jody's wondering, she sees a lot of mention using webhooks with Zapier and ProsperWorks. What are those?
What are webhooks?
Yeah.
Liz, do you have a good explanation for webhooks?
Webhooks basically allow something to happen instantly. So instead of waiting for, hey, maybe it's a schedule or maybe it's, something to trigger it, as soon as something is updated, a field, a stage, a status, it happens automatically so that your data is always up to date.
And I've seen webhooks because we have an internal app or a built-in app at Zapier called Webhooks by Zapier. So if the app you're using doesn't integrate with Zapier, but it does have webhooks, you could connect that app to Zapier via Webhooks by Zapier, if that makes sense. So we could still get that data from your app via the webhook. So that's a cool workaround for an app that you use that might not integrate with Zapier just yet.
Chris is wondering what the name is of the texting app that the guy uses for taking out the trash. I believe that came from James, so if James wants to submit what app he uses, unless you guys want to, yeah.
If I can just say, there's a few actually applications, and Kim, maybe but there's actually an SMS by Zapier that you can use, which is a great way to get text.
Yeah, I love SMS by Zapier. It's free, and you can't broadcast text to people that you don't know. Like, you need to own the phone number that you're texting or calling, but it's available to you with your Zapier login. So rather than sign up for something like Twilio, you can use SMS by Zapier and send text for anything. Maybe that's what James uses. Here is the Zapbook for SMS by Zapier, and you can get texts for emails or new e-commerce orders or when your form is filled out. It's a really awesome built-in app. Get today's weather forecast via SMS. You can do anything.
There's a Zap for everything.
Everything.
So I think we have time for one more question. Let's see. Alex sent this in. We want alerts to, at the very least, sent to alerts@companyname.com, but the only alert we can get now is our actual user email address, and we don't want alerts to be sent to our direct email address. So I think they're trying to send alerts to a specific email address and not to the actual user. I don't know if there's a way we could demonstrate how to do that.
I'm not sure I understand. What would be the use case for it? So alerts about something that happened in ProsperWorks?
I'm assuming so. It doesn't specify. Alex, if you want to shoot an email over to either us or contact Zapier, I'm sure someone can answer that question for you.
Yeah, I would say, based on what I'm assuming from the question, if you set up the ProsperWorks to Gmail Zap, for example, I could put anything I want in the to field there. So I could email it to myself or to my boss or somebody else. It doesn't have to be your own ProsperWorks email or your company email.
Yeah.
I don't know if that answers it fully, but send me some more information and I'll help you out there.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. Well, we're just at 12 o'clock here on the West Coast, so I guess we should wrap things up. But yeah, as I mentioned earlier, a recorded version of this webinar will be sent out to you guys as well as available on the ProsperWorks blog.
And I'll put it up on the Zapier blog too, so you guys can see it out there too.
Perfect. And yeah, if you guys have any other questions that didn't get answered, definitely email either contact@zapier.com or info@prosperworks.com. Yeah, thanks so much for attending, everyone.
Yeah, I really appreciate all your questions. That was really, really cool to hear from all of you. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Kim.
Thank you, guys.
Everyone. Yeah.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.